Welcome to Three on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just three old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
How you guys doing? Welcome to Three on the Ones and Twos. My name is Tom. It's my good friend slash brother, James.
James Joyce.
And the awesome,
Cassie.
super badass Cassie.
Yes.
How's everyone doing today? Hope everyone's doing great.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, gorgeous fall day in the ATL. I want to give a shout out to Casey and Allison Yarborough.
Executive producer.
Yes,
Thank you,
Casey Yarborough! Yes, and PBRs and Jameson. Thank you, Tony, forever. We just had a great episode. We're going to do another episode.
This is episode number 2, so
Yeah.
it's going to be a little slurry, but that's okay. We're going to talk about your record this time.
You know, and it's so fun because when we get into this and we have behind the scenes, off camera, I really do treasure our conversations about music and what we love, you know. And I certainly had, I think, 1 or 2 or 3 go-to records, and I believe you did as well, and you did as well. And if I certainly another shot gets involved, there's 5 or 6, whatever, you know. And one of the records will be probably come out down the road. This is the second one, and it's this funny thing because it's a Pogues record, and the Pogues for the longest time may have been my favorite band. And they're still up there, but I love music and it changes, and I probably don't listen to them as much as I do now, but they really are just this magical, well, as they refer to it as Poguetry in motion. It's punk rock and poetry, you know. And although I love Red Roses for Me,
Sure.
and I even triple love Rum Sodomy and the Lash,
Sure.
unbelievable.
What about Hell's Ditch?
Actually, I love Hell's Ditch because you could see it was a band that was struggling, but still brought out the demons, and they had one of my heroes, Joe Strummer, produce it.
Sure.
So I love Hell's Ditch as well. But this record, in between all that, it's funny because James, we talk about this perfect thing, and sometimes, we're good. It's close to a perfect record. So the record I'm talking about is the Pogues, If I Should Fall from Grace with God.
That's right.
Now, the funny thing is actually,
This album.
Cassie just mentioned something to me, and listen, that's what we love about this. We just talk about this stuff. I remember seeing an interview actually with Joe Strummer. It was in between what he called his wilderness or his isolation years. In between the Clash, he later on played with the Pogues for a minute. And in an interview, he said, if I ever get my own band going again, Joe Strummer, rest in peace. He said, if I ever get my own band going again, and I was going to do a cover of a song, I would cover the song If I Should Fall from Grace of God.
And he said that before he ended up, because he fronted
There's a very good chance he was probably around the same time. Because you look at these interviews, and he probably was maybe getting up there playing a few songs with them, and maybe he was interviewing stuff from the late 80s. Because this came out, they recorded this in
88
they recorded this in 87, it came out in 88. And it's
I could see him singing that song.
Yeah.
If I
Well,
Should
the
Fall from
energy
Grace
is
of
so
God.
good.
It's his
It's
type
so
of song.
fast. It's poetic. You know, Shane MacGowan has had his hurls and he's had his troubles over the years, but no one's ever doubted him as, like, you know, what a mastermind of a lyricist and a
interesting.
poet.
I wonder whether or not they ever did that song live when Joe Strummer,
I'm
because
sure
there
they
was a
did.
brief period when
I'm
Joe
sure they did,
Strummer
yeah.
was fronting them.
Well, yeah, so he produced Hell's Ditch. He went on a tour with them.
Yep.
And then eventually they fired him, and then he actually went on tour with them without Shane. So I'm sure there's a great chance that he did, you know. But this record for me, wow. So you're looking at it right now.
This is your record. Is this your choice of the? I look at the Pogues as having 4 critical records.
And by the way, as my wonderful
choice.
brother and best friend Marlo Sanchez says, you can't be great forever. If you have 4 amazing records, you're doing great.
Well, 4 records. Think about the bands with 4 records. You got the Pogues.
Yeah.
You got the Velvet Underground.
Sure.
You got Black Sabbath. You got, who else has 4 like masterpieces under them?
Yeah, it's true.
That they did
the
like
Stooges
4.
have 2 wonderful records. Yeah.
Stooges is a 2-record
I would say
band.
Sabbath for sure. Clash have 3 great records. No, you're absolutely right. But here's
I would say the Clash have 4. I mean, I would give them 4 critical records. You got the first album.
Yeah.
You got Give 'Em Enough Rope. You got London Calling.
You
got Sandinista,
which was our first episode.
Okay,
yeah.
so you can't ignore Combat Rock.
Combat Rock was their biggest record.
They get 5 records.
So
okay, that's fine.
So then they're doing better than anything we've actually even said. But think about this. Your title track is the opening track of the record.
Yes.
Talk about a punch in the face, how good of it. It's like,
Yes.
it's like, it is poetry in motion. Punk rock poetry in motion.
So I was listening to this morning before I left.
It's
and
wonderful.
I mean, you can't help but like dance around. And my dog thought I was crazy again. But it's just, there's something so uplifting about their music. But at the same time, like then when you listen
They're
to
dark,
like,
sad
music,
songs, yeah.
it's bittersweet because it is so, like, there are some that can make you cry.
Well, Thousands of Sailing is this, what a beautiful piece of a story and history of coming to America, It's earlier when we were setting up for this show.
It's one of the best immigration songs. It's like about
the best, yeah.
Yeah.
And like a song like Fiesta, which I was playing earlier when we were setting up, and I'm like, there's times I'm like, this is almost like a throwaway song for them.
Sure.
But it still is that wonderful and that good. It's a soul
I gotta
song.
say,
It's
my daughters really love Fiesta. My daughters are big fans of the Pogues, and I play the Pogues in the house because there is there's a movie called a Pirates movie that came out when they were younger. They're still young, but
the video is them basically dressed as pirates, I believe.
Yeah, so it's the like Wallace and Gromit series.
Right.
They did a movie about pirates, and it's all like, it's the Pogues, it's the Clash, it's English Beat, it's like
great
it's
band.
all British bands all
Really?
through it, and so my daughters
Wallace and Gromit?
love
gotta
whenever I play like Fiesta comes from that movie, and they're like, I love this song because it's from that movie.
It really is beautiful. And I would say it would be a
Fiesta's
cardinal.
great.
It would be a cardinal sin to probably not have any Jameson while talking about the Pogues.
I know this was why you picked this.
Yeah.
Is because we're going to listen to.
And I'd be nothing without my friends. This is so wonderful. But I will say this: I remember when I was in England with Frankie Stubbs, who was one of my favorite songwriters, and we got into this deep conversation about this record, and he said, "Enough said." They have the greatest Christmas song written of all time that actually has nothing to do with Christmas.
Sure. It really doesn't.
And it's like
Christmas is
it's a drunk guy who woke up, whatever. And I was like, you're right. Well, that right there says it all. So cheers to that. Fairy Tale New York.
Let's talk about that song for a while because oh my God, we can.
Well, Matt Dillon directed the video.
I never saw the video.
I believe Joe Strummer, Paul Simonon, and maybe, no, I'm thinking of another video, but Matt Dillon definitely directed the video.
Most of them were in, before Cato Reardon left, most of them were in Straight to Hell. Like the movie with
we're definitely gonna get into that later. There's several segues that are happening.
Oh my God, there's so much.
Alex Cox, love Alex Cox.
But do we want to talk about, because we can talk for a while about Fairy Tale in New
We
York.
want to talk about as much as you want to talk about.
Well, this is your pick. But the thing that I found most interesting, because I didn't know this, was so the song, when the song was written, they tried it with Cato Reardon.
Right.
And like Shane MacGowan and the rest of it, it didn't feel right.
It didn't right.
So
they found Christy McCall. They found Christy McCall.
No, they didn't find her. She was like the producer, well, I have it in my notes. But the producer.
Suggested her.
No, it was his wife.
Okay.
It was his wife.
Oh no, you're talking about Steve Lillywhite, who produced the record. Yeah, no, I knew that. Steve Lillywhite produced early U2 and produced this Pogues album, and a brilliant producer. He was married to Kirsty McCall and suggested her.
And so then, like, he brought it home.
Yes.
And they didn't even expect it, but then he like brought it into them and they listened to it, and oh my gosh.
And she
so
was
could
brilliant.
you just imagine that if he wouldn't have done that, this song might not have been.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is the thing, and I'm a huge Cato Reardon fan as well. It's funny when you think about like in this day and age, like nepotism. Well, Cato Reardon was married to Elvis Costello at this time. Steve Lillywhite was married to Kirsty McCall this time, and someone had the
same
power.
crew.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think it's necessarily
cruising
nepotism
around.
in
It's
this,
just
as it is like
everybody's friends.
It's just kind of like
connection.
You have yeah, you have somebody. You're like, hey, there's this thing, and
I agree.
And so then
I
you
am
just
so
have
grateful for
friends
Kirsty McCall. I'm a huge fan of hers. What's sad to me is because I just believe we're all good people because I think punk rockers are good people. And Shane wrote this gorgeous song, but her singing or him, you wouldn't even be able to pull it off half the lyrics today. They would say it's politically incorrect.
They tried
Sure.
to ban it in 2007.
They tried to ban it, and this is the thing. He basically, I was in Ireland in like 2002 with a girlfriend, and he came out and sang it on Christmas Day, and his mom was singing Kirsty McCall's Poques, and she said, "You scumbag, you maggot, you cheap lousy faggot,"
When
and
you
it was
say
brilliant.
he, do you mean Shane MacGowan?
Shane MacGowan.
His mom
Shane
came out
MacGowan
and
sang it,
sang
and
it.
his mom sang it with him in Ireland, and it was on local news, and it was brilliant. And I was like, and even though his mom was old and she sang out of key, I was like, no, this is the shit. This is punk rock, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like I know that there's no, because I believe punk rockers love the good stuff, and they hate ignorance and racism and certainly homophobia. So I know he didn't mean anything by this. So it's just
No.
beautiful poetry
I-
to it, but like you could not put out the song
You
today.
couldn't. No,
Never.
no, because they say that. I think the reason they banned it was because of that word, because they didn't
Several,
want it to be.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's so. I mean, there's so much of the spirit where it's just, especially at the time that this came out, but also in the spirit where it's just like when you are so like passionate about somebody,
Sure.
but you're angry and you're just trying to say whatever you possibly can to hurt them, and there's something
Right.
moving about that.
Very.
And he's just like, you're a slut,
Yeah.
you're a this. He's
Yeah,
like saying,
but
like,
also
they've
but
just
also
done
you
that
have
before.
you also have you took my dreams from me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like,
There's-
I mean, like,
it's such a,
it
this
is.
song will make me cry.
It is the best.
it
It's
is
wonderful.
beautiful.
And
Absolutely
it's so
beautiful.
funny because listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Christmas music.
It's the only Christmas song.
And people are like, oh, I'm sick and tired of this one. But like,
Let's not discount Christmas wrapping. Like,
Yes,
of course, or
Chris-
Father Christmas by
Father Christmas by the Kinks.
Kinks.
And, yeah.
There's great Christmas songs. I think that it's
Okay,
great.
this is the one I like.
Well, I do think it's great that the Pogues have a song in
Yes.
this,
The
the great Christmas songs
Well,
of our time.
I have heard from several
It's kind of a
friends.
shame that like this is like the song that's the most well known of the Pogues songs.
Yeah.
Because
there
it's
are
Christmas
Because
time.
they have amazing
Because they have
songs.
amazing songs.
Well, like
Yeah.
I said,
Yes, I agree.
Thousands of Sailing.
Yeah.
It tells such a beautiful story when he talks about Leonard Cohen and Kennedy's and he goes I went back to my empty room. I went back to my hotel room. I suppose I must have cried. And well, certainly I've spent a lot of nights crying in hotel rooms. But imagine like a guy coming over seas and doing that. And he goes,
Right.
I went back to my empty room. I suppose I must have cried. Like that is the most beautiful painting. Like you can see the pictures, you see the colors, you see everything with it.
Yep.
And there's so much of that on that.
There's so much
And,
of this. There's so much bittersweet.
I mean, the funny thing I was going to say, especially to you, James, is like, so if I Shall Fall in Grace with God album, song 1, side A, to me it's like the horses, like they open the gates and the horses, like what a great song. It's like hit it out of
Yes.
the park, whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then you got like side
Another song
2,
with
like
band,
you got then Fiesta, which is great.
Sure, Fiesta,
But
fun.
then there's this pause, silence, and you got Birmingham 6, like
Yep.
unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean,
Which I
Streets of
actually-
Sorrow, Birmingham 6 is
Streets
unbelievable.
of Sorrow, like the beginning part of Birmingham 6, and I think at one point they were like they had planned on turning Streets of Sorrow into a full length.
Full
but
song
they
by itself.
figured it worked better. But I love that. I love
It's
that
wonderful.
intro. Like it's just so. It's so.
Farewell to
amazing.
Streets of
It just,
Sorrow,
like,
it's
makes
amazing.
It makes me want to cry, but it also makes me feel
And I believe that's the drummer singing that.
uplifted. I mean, like.
Andrew.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I got like that in the. But the Turkish Song of the Damned. Speaking of Straight to Hell, like I think that they got inspired from that.
Oh, big time.
No, I think somehow they ended up hearing that, or there was something like it was something having to do with some saying or something that they heard while they were filming that actually led to that.
It's a good chance.
Essentially.
Well,
I love that James Joyce is represented in the,
Oh yeah,
in
he
the
is.
insert.
He is. That's another thing that I
That's
learned.
pretty
in
great.
this.
Yeah.
It's like everybody knows this, but it's like
James
all.
Joyce.
It's all the it's the Pogues superimposed, but the original picture is.
Well, they've always
Joyce.
been brilliant with that.
I never expected him to look like that.
Rumstein and the Lash
Yeah.
has that old gorgeous painting, and you see their faces in it.
Yeah.
Like it's so, it's gorgeous and creepy and amazing.
Well, I think that kind of like leads back to, I mean, especially back then, and like bands like the Pogues and stuff. Like it wasn't just music. A lot of it was like a certain art statement when they had like
Sure.
they really put a lot of thought into like the little things that they, the ways they represented themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say, not enough can be said of, like, I love songs, but my version of love song is probably different than most people. Like main populist people might look at like Whitney Houston songs, love songs, but
Sure.
like Nick Cave and Leonard Cohen to me write love songs.
Yeah.
The Broad Majestic Shannon might be the most beautiful song on this record.
That's
you know?
your love
Yeah,
song.
it's really, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Like the story is unbelievable. And I feel like Rainy Night in Soho and that are the same. It's like,
Yeah.
which came out, it's like they put it, I think Shane was like, this was my dream one night, and this is the B part of this dream another night,
I always think about the 4 albums that the Pogues did is such a great body of work. It's such a run. The 4 kind of critical
Core,
albums,
yeah.
the core albums. But this album is funny because it has some bangers on it for sure. But then there's other albums that have also. It's sort of like it is the Pogues, but it's not the only Pogues album. If you say like,
No, you're right.
if you say, okay, I'm gonna listen to the Pogues, what should I listen to? And you think of this album, you're like,
I would tell you to go to the greatest hits called Poguetry
Sure,
Emotion.
sure, yeah.
Because you're
It's
absolutely right.
definitely
Because
like a
there's 4
greatest
songs
hits.
on this that are just gorgeous poems to music that are just pieces of art.
Well-
but is it filler? Like, what is it? You know?
but I kind of like the fact that the Pogues albums are sort of a mix of things. They have some like great hits, but at the same time they have also some like, some other songs on it. It's
No,
not
you're
just like
absolutely right.
it's not just like, okay, the Pogues have one great album and then
Oh,
like
yeah.
and then a couple albums that are
as a
okay.
matter- as a matter
It's
of-
like all their albums
Yeah.
are pretty solid.
And as a
but-
matter of
Yeah.
fact, like when we talked about doing this a while back, I was like, if I should fall from grace to God.
that's your
But-
choice.
But now, today or
Yep.
tonight later, having drinks after this shoot, I might be like, man, I think I love Rumstein and the Lash more,
Right.
because it's such a
Hell's
wonderful record.
Ditch is my jam.
Wonderful
as,
record.
as far as a solid record. I'll
Summer
do.
in Siam
but
is beautiful.
But a greatest hits of the Pogues is also a great introduction
Well,
to the band.
hopefully we keep doing this and we get.
Yeah,
We can
more,
bring other
more.
ones of either else.
Hell's
But I am
Ditch
gonna
is a
make
special record,
I am
for
going to make
sure.
a correction though, because it wasn't when they were shooting Straight from Hell. It was like they were in Germany,
Yep.
and I guess a magazine had an article about the Damned. Oh, the Damned, the band The Damned.
love The Damned.
The B side of one of their singles was called the Turkey Song.
Oh, and they did
And
Turkish
so
Song of the
they
Damned.
said
Yeah.
the Turkish song. They made it
Yeah.
Turkish Song of
That's
the
great.
Damned that was actually.
But that is
was
a great song as well. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
like,
no.
It's an amazing song.
Yeah.
I mean, Shane had a way. I've watched the most recent documentary on him, and it's beautiful, but also very sad, because even though
We're sharing our
even though
PBR
we're
right now.
Oh, is that
sponsored,
what-
even though we're
It's okay.
sponsored,
It's
and we
fine.
haven't
I'll
shots of
drink
Jameson.
this. Yeah.
I don't think you should take it
Oh, I think this
to
is
the
supposed
next
to be mine.
level where it's bad. Some of it's hard to watch, but
Yeah.
the genius behind his brain, his heart, and his poetry, and his hooks and melody was so
Yep.
wonderful. I mean, in the 90s, so this came out in 88, and I
Yeah.
heard about them because I was watching Alex Cox films and stuff, but I probably became a big fan of many musicians in the early 90s.
Yep.
And they were Shane MacGowan of the Pogues, Leonard
Sure.
Cohen, Nick Cave, certainly Joe Strummer of the Clash.
Tom
and
Waits.
Tom Waits. And
There
it
you
was
go.
all in the
It's
same
all
to me.
mixing
And it was
together.
poetry in motion and
Yes.
poetry meeting aggressive music and stuff.
Yep.
And so I loved it, loved it, loved it. But, like I said, watching that documentary is kind of sad stuff.
It's trouble
because,
dude, yeah.
Because I want him to write one more album like this,
There's something like about like very emotionally troubled people, and also like Shane MacGowan. I don't know how old he was when he was in this, but like he looked like baby,
Right.
like
He did.
tiny.
Yeah.
But like just a lot of the lyrics are so I mean, they're so, like, I keep using the word bittersweet, but they really are. I mean, they're just so, they're very, very deep and mature.
Yes, beautiful.
For somebody as young as he was.
Insane and wonderful poet.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So everybody has a Pogues story. So I'm sure you have a Pogues story of like where a certain Pogues song means a lot to you or a situation. I had I wanted to talk about my Pogues experience in like, I love their albums, whatever.
Sure.
But I wanted to, I had when I lived in Amsterdam from 2003 to 2006, so 3 years, and I used to spend a lot of time by myself.
Good time to live in Amsterdam.
It was a good time. It was fun, but my wife Sue, she was still in the States sometimes. We go back and forth, but she was still working, and so I had a lot of downtime. And there's this one time where I decided I'm gonna ride a bike because I didn't have a car there. I was in Amsterdam.
Wow.
You might as well have a bike. So I had a bike, and I was like, I'm gonna ride on Sunday or whatever it was from Lelystad to, Enkhuizen to Lelystad.
Yeah.
Enkhuizen, Lelystad. It's around the IJsselmeer, which is the big inlet. It's a big lake north of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And it's a big land bridge. It's 21 miles. You're going to
It's a good
ride
bike ride.
Yeah.
a land bridge that's it has like one road if a car wants to go down it,
Like the other cars wait.
but mainly it's a bike path. But it's a giant dike essentially to manage the water in that area. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ride 21 miles around. I'm going to listen to the Pogues.
Nice.
Oh, that sounds so
And
beautiful.
so I listened to the Pogues on like a Discman because it was kind of before iPods or whatever. And so I'm just going to listen to the 4 main albums. And I listen, and when I think about the Pogues, I think about riding on the land bridge for on a Sunday afternoon for 21 miles down. And thankfully the wind was at my back. I chose it the right way so I could just cruise on down. But when I hear all these songs, I think about riding along
it brings you back to just kind of like a moment when I love those moments when you can just designate like a big chunk of time just to nature and music. Like those are really special to me.
Exactly. And so I feel like the Pogues are one of those bands where you have a moment. You have your like Pogues moment. Especially a band like that.
No,
because
you're
they're
absolutely right. And it's so weird because I take what I do, writing in any form, seriously. I remember like one night saying something so immature and clueless, like when I first discovered them. And I was like, said to like, let's say my friend Marlo or something, like how could someone like so unattractive write something so beautiful?
Right.
And he looked at me, he's like, you're a smart guy, Tom. What's wrong with you? He's like, you kidding me? You're not that attractive. You write beautiful stuff. Are you kidding me? The most beautiful.
I love Marlo.
The beautiful stuff.
He's really attractive.
The beautiful stuff is going to come from that.
Yeah.
And I remember,
it's this emotional place.
I was in Dublin, early 2000s, and we saw Shane was playing at a small venue. With his band, the Popes, at the time.
You saw him?
Shane MacGowan and the Popes. There you go.
And we're going to say hey to Shane. And
Shane
the
MacGowan.
Pogues and the Popes, and do a shot of it real quick. But so I cannot remember the name of the city for the life of me because of all these Jamesons.
It wasn't in Dublin or Belfast or anything?
No, it was outside. But I remember the town, the town, which when we edit this, I'll give you the notes to it. Because I'll look it up.
You'll write
the
notes.
But the town, even the lady at it was like a travel agent. I saw it in the paper, like Shane's playing next Sunday. Because I was hanging out in Ireland for a couple weeks. And I showed it to this girl I was with, and I was like, yo, we're going to go see Shane MacGowan. We'll take a bus there. She's like, it's 2 hours outside of town. They call it Stab City. These two notorious families were fighting for 100 years, and you walk down the street and you just get stabbed. Insane. She's like, be careful when you go there. So anyway, we go to this pub, and it's not much bigger than this porch. Thank you, Casey Yarborough. and Shane's playing, and I remember I was like, well, I want to watch the whole show. So at the time I was drinking a lot of gin and tonics. So I bought like 5 gin and tonics, and I put them on the stage, and it was like maybe 40 people. Shane comes out, his toilet paper stuck to both shoes. His suit was wrinkled. It had blood, semen, and vomit all over it. And he walked out on stage, and I was like this. And he jumped into If I Fall from Grace to God with the Popes, and he just stole one of my gin and tonics, and I was like this. And it was amazing. Yeah, and
that's your Pogues moment.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Okay, so
and I've seen the Pogues and the Pope several times,
So
but that was
when
just
you say
wonderful.
Your Pogues moment, like you don't mean when you were like first really introduced to the Pogue. You just mean like when it meant something. Like
there's
when
a moment
really
where
touched
you have with that music.
And that's the moment it touched you.
Yeah, well, it's also
You
amazing
really
to be in
feel
another
it,
country.
you know?
I mean, I've been very lucky as a musician as well to like, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s, traveling where a lot of my good friends who were like on Warped Tours and stuff, like I'd be in a country and they'd be playing and I got to go see them. And that's when you like, I mean, I really believe music is magic, but it's really.
My Pogues moment?
Please
My
do.
Pogues moment?
Please do.
My Pogues moment, so obviously I had heard the Pogues, then, but not like, I didn't, you know how we were talking about people that, that we have to like introduce you to things or whatever. So I had heard the Pogues, but nobody around me was super into them. So I hadn't dug into them. But then things happened, and I moved from Northern California to Chicago.
Yes.
And I met some friends at a ska show. Like I went to a ska show alone, and I met my friend Violet and my friend Tom Lally. There's a very, very big, there's a big immigrant population in Chicago, like Irish, immigrant population. So we started hanging out at this. I was not 21, but we started hanging out because we knew the bouncer at this bar called Circuits. And at the end of the night, a lot of the guys would get together, and because a lot of them were like my friend Tom Lally, were descendants of Irish immigrants.
Yep.
And so they would get around, and even though the Pogues, most of the Pogues weren't from Ireland, but still.
Well, Shane himself was born in England.
But still, it's just that the music and how much it draws people together. At the end of the night, when it was like closing time, like they would all stand up like on this one like ledge and like and sing.
There's
Sing
something
these
about
songs.
it. There's something about
and one of those people was the person that you're maybe talking about. Like Matt Hensley had recently like
Matt's
moved
good
from.
friend,
I mean, I don't know him very well.
From San Diego to Chicago.
From San Diego to Chicago, and he was one of the people with my friend Tom and like a lot of other dudes that would like sit there and sing this, which made sense that he went on to like.
Yeah, Matt's great. I just talked to him the other night on the phone. He's awesome. That's great.
Then he went on to do like Flogging Molly and stuff. But that was really.
That is awesome.
That was really the point when I felt how powerful the Pogues were, because how powerful that moment was.
I think any immigrant
each night that would end, and they were like joining arms. And,
I think any immigrant music or any gypsy music or any certainly soul music, anything world music. Like I remember being in a bar in Amsterdam where people were ordered to jump on tables and handed big carafes of vodka. And they were singing songs that I had no idea what they were. Right. And I don't know if they certainly was in Amsterdam. They weren't Irish songs, but they were just insane gypsy songs. But me and the person I was with were hugging and jumping around, and I was like, I could die right now, happy.
And the music that makes you feel that translates that.
And that's what Shane does. And listen, also, what a brilliant backing band. You know, James Fernley, Andrew Rankin. Like, what a wonderful band.
It made me think about this, like, okay, so there's a lot of members to this band. And we were, like, talking in our first episode.
Eight, I believe.
And I referenced back to, like, some Facebook post in our first episode. I referenced back to, like, or maybe it was the second episode. I referenced back to a Facebook post where it's like, 9 people on stage just making that. But this makes sense.
Unbelievable.
Because they actually... all of it.
And think about this, considering from like the punk or noise background we come from, all acoustic instruments.
It's almost
so unbelievable.
Nothing noise, electric in there.
Nothing unbelievable.
But it's also like almost like a symphonic orchestra. the levels of emotion
Unbelievable.
that it can bring you to, and because I guess I was referencing like what you said about like so many people on stage. It's like when so many people are on stage just doing what 3 or 4 people should be able to do. But this
You're
is like
absolutely.
this.
No, everyone's doing something completely different.
Everybody is contributing, and it is so powerful.
You're absolutely
it
right.
is really
So, like,
absolutely
what would the
powerful.
Pogues be without banjo or accordion?
I mean, really.
Holy cow! Right? Exactly.
Well, I mean, well, Jem, who played banjo, like was one of the major songwriters. Like him and Shane MacGowan were the 2 major songwriters in the Pogues. So
Yeah. He wrote.
but
he wrote
also
very-
like the banjo,
yeah.
like
he
there's
wrote
so
1,000
much
Sailors.
of
Yeah.
this.
It
Yeah.
is, and it also just shows you, like, I mean, because we're just such fans of music, you know, and
Which is so amazing.
I love who's a person who's a songwriter who does it, but I love when someone comes and says, "This is my idea," but then 7 people go, "Well, we're going to help you execute that idea."
Your idea.
Yeah.
Your artistic idea.
Right?
I mean, it's like
You know?
art. It's like
4
everybody's
albums.
just like.
I mean, I love Phil Lynott.
Yeah.
Didn't Lizzie
Yeah.
destroy me? But he would not have been anything without the guys he played with. you
Sure.
know?
I mean,
And
for
another
sure.
Irish great, another
Sure.
fantastic Irish band.
Yeah,
You know?
fill in it, and yeah, I've been to Dublin. I've seen the James Joyce quotes
Yeah.
on the buildings. It's amazing, and yeah, it's great. When you talk about bands of 4 albums,
Yeah.
I mean the Pogues, X is
The
another.
Ramones' first 4 albums.
The Ramones. Well,
The Ramones'
yeah.
first 8 albums.
Yeah, okay.
Even though they sound the same, but
they-
I love them.
they just-
the Ramones
Well,
are
what are you gonna do?
The Ramones are probably my Beatles, you know, so I mean, you know.
Sure, but the Pogues did an amazing job.
Well,
with the
also,
albums that they had.
there's the other thing. So real quick, so you know, there's documentaries on Shane MacGowan. and
Sure.
Like I said, I'm
need to watch
conflicted
it, yeah.
because I've watched him, and
He's a troubled dude. I get it. Yeah.
and he's influenced me so much as a writer and as a poet and everything. But I also, coming from a man who is troubled himself, I can't even condone like somebody. I'm like, I can't watch this because, like, well, he's that troubled, you know, whatever.
Right.
Like, trust me, you know, I went to you know parts of England and went to bars just that I heard he hung out in.
Sure.
When I, you know, and Ireland as well, you know, amazing. But it's like, also, I'm never gonna write Fairy Tale in New York, so
Sure.
I don't have that, you know.
Well,
I love,
oh my God.
I love
Tom,
this.
Like honestly, for anybody watching who hasn't, you write amazing. Like,
Well,
your
thank you,
lyrics
thank you
are
very much. You
you're
know,
moving, very,
but
very
like,
moving.
such a
So,
wonderful band,
Yep.
so amazing, all of it. You
I
know,
think that, and the one thing I'm going to say is like, I do love the Ramones. The Ramones are fun to listen to.
Sure.
The Ramones do not take me
They
to
don't.
the same emotional place
No.
that the Pogues will. Because
Sure.
the Pogues writing
Yeah.
and all the layers and tapestry of the instruments and it's like, I mean, it pulls out
I will take you
emotions
back to
that,
what
like,
I will
you know,
take you
like,
back to.
sometimes you're scared
I'll
to
take you back
feel.
to what I
It's like-
said earlier in the song "Thousand Sailin'." He goes, you know, we tipped a hat to Mr. Cohen.
Yep.
Leonard Cohen. He goes, talked about Times Square, and he goes, I went back to my empty room, or some people say my hotel room. Depends on you listen to it. He goes, I suppose must have cried. All I know is this. I've never heard anyone emote that way.
Yeah.
Like it really is that
and
emotive.
it's crazy that
Yeah.
he was so young when he did that.
So yeah.
So young
It's
when
great.
he did that, and that he emoted, like he projected that, but that you feel it. You
Oh,
feel
I know.
so
Listen,
much.
we're going to listen to it later. We're going to be hugging each other
Oh yeah.
as the fall leaves come down.
Yep.
Where are we at on time?
So,
We're good. We got to do a.
you would do
we
it
have a
this
letter.
Yeah. Vicky Esposito. Do we know her?
I don't
Vicky
know, but she
Esposito?
sounds, I mean, I don't know.
Is she from
She's
Harlem?
probably awesome.
So
Is she from Harlem?
it's so funny the people that reach out.
She was
And-
Staten Island.
And by the
From
way,
Staten
thank
Island?
you. I went to PA 62,
All right.
Queens, New York. But Vicky Esposito, she said, Tom, I'd like to know what you and the crew thoughts are on your favorite musical soundtrack to a movie is. Movie soundtrack is.
Movie soundtrack.
I'm going to say it quick and right off the top of my head. Well, we've been talking about Alex Cox. Straight to Hell blew me away.
Yep. Straight to
Unbelievable.
Hell.
Yeah.
I never watched that.
Clash and
It's like
Pogues.
amazing, yeah.
Clash and Joe Strummer solo stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, and I know we don't have much time, so I'd love
Didn't
to.
it also have like sex? Didn't it also
Oh,
have
sure.
like?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
Didn't it? Yeah.
off the top of my head.
I don't know.
But tell me what you got.
Oh, for me, for
Yes.
like.
And then
soundtrack?
James.
For a soundtrack, I would say Velvet Goldmine because it has.
Beautiful.
Velvet Goldmine.
Because it has. Oh my God! Because it has like songs from T-Rex and it has songs from Roxy
Mike
Music.
Watt plays all over that shit.
Yeah.
And Mike Watt is
My
in
brother-
one of the bands.
my
that
brother
does
and
this-
cousin and
also,
uncle.
And also Tom York. It's like it is. I think that
Yeah.
I think it's the perfect soundtrack, and nothing will ever change my mind.
Great.
What do you got, James Joyce?
Decline versus Civilization Part 1.
What?
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I never look at it because it's such a documentary. I never think about it
yeah.
having a soundtrack. But you're right.
But Decline Part 1 is a big
Oh, does
influential
it have
movie.
X? Does it have X in it?
Has X,
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Social
Germs.
No,
Justice.
yeah. So I know. Yeah.
Fear.
So I have to.
Black Flag, and then like Circle Jerks,
Uh,
of course, and then like, you know, Alice Bag, as well as Catholic Discipline with
Great.
with Robert Lopez.
Robert Lopez, yeah.
who
Elvis, yeah.
is Elvis.
I know
Yeah.
Robert Lopez,
So,
yeah.
Decline versus Civilization Part 1 as like a video that you could rent at a video store
Yeah.
at age 15.
I know what we're
It's
doing.
like
I
something
know what
that's
we're
really
doing.
gonna, like,
I know what we're
help
doing.
you.
I know
like,
what we're doing
progress
tonight.
musically. Like, yeah. I
And-
mean, sure.
But like that captures the whole like
Yeah, 'cause I haven't seen
19
that.
know what's so funny because-
1980s 1979 LA
Yeah, I
scene,
haven't seen that.
which well is critical to that time
I'm with
period.
you on all that because there's things
yeah.
I certainly have not liked about, like, let's say, social distortion, but
Sure.
but also 1945 and Prison Bound Destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like.
We're
it's kind of
deviating
like-
into LA really
No,
quickly.
But